Are fundraising events worth it? We did the math so you don't have to. We all know about fundraising events. We plan a gala, a golf tournament, a 5K. It's kind of an easy barrier of entry to fundraising. Like, I don't want to go out and ask for money because that seems scary or hard, or I don't know who to ask, but I could invite someone to a party because that feels like a softer ask. Like, why would someone give me money for nothing when I could ask them to attend a party instead, and that gives me money? So a lot of charities start this way, or even some that are pretty mature have multiple events throughout the year, and that's their entire income. They're very event-based. This is a difficult way to live, but we can show you with some data, maybe a pathway to a little bit easier of a time in your fundraising program. So just kind of first looking at the hard costs for fundraising events. On average, and this changes very little every year. This has kind of been the same general stat for quite a long time. It's really gotten really bad over the last 10 or 15 years, but we've kind of settled on this number. It costs, on average, 50 cents to generate $1. So even if you have a fundraising event that raises $100,000 in one night or $200,000 in one night, half of that money just goes back into the event to put the event on. Not to say that this is a loss, like we didn't throw the gala and it cost the organization money. We still raised, say we raised $200K in one night. It was so successful, $200,000. We sold auction items, we had tickets, we had corporate sponsors. It was a very big to-do. The mayor spoke, it was just beautiful. Everyone loved it. $200,000. And then we paid $100,000 of that just for the food and the band and the venue. So we're losing $100,000 in that same night, and it cost us roughly 50 cents to raise $1. According to most of the fundraising governing bodies, AFP, CFRE, the people who know the most things about fundraising, to put it simply, that is under the minimum ethical standard to raise $1. It should cost you a maximum of 20 cents to raise $1. So we know that if we have an events program only, and we're only using events to raise money, we are below the ethical standards by which we should be operating. So we shouldn't be doing that as a whole. But you say, oh no, I'm better than that. It cost me way less than 50 cents on the dollar to do that. This is a very easy event, and it generates $10,000 in one night. It's super easy. It's at a bar and we get a bunch of people there, and it's a percentage night, and we have all this stuff. It only takes me a month to plan it, and it's $10,000. And we raise, let's say we raise $8,000 because it only cost us $2K. We only lost $2K across that, and now we've raised $8,000 towards that event. Well, say you're a paid staff person and you make $25 an hour, and it took you 200 hours to do that. That is now $5,000 more dollars that you did not calculate. $5,000 more off of that $8,000. So now you only have $3,000. So it cost you $2,000 to put on the event, you raised 10, but then it took you another $5,000 just to pay your staff person for that month of work to put the event on. It wasn't exactly a month, but say it was 200 hours total over the course of 2 months. You say, well, still, at minimal ethical standard, we still raised a little bit, it's not bad, but keep in mind, there's even a further hidden cost. There's the opportunity cost. 200 hours. Yes, we had to pay our fundraising staff, our executive staff for this time, and we lost $25 for each of those hours toward the event planning. But say instead, you were to take those 200 hours and put them all into major gifts. How many meetings with donors could you have if you had 200 hours? Not even saying that you're gonna spend 200 hours actually meeting with people, but if you spent 200 hours making prospect lists, reaching out to people, cultivating relationships, meeting up with these people in person, then asking for money, and even say you talked to one person. You did 200 hours and you spent 200 hours cultivating one prospect, and you asked them for $50,000, that one prospect. Well, then suddenly, those 200 hours were worth it just for one prospect for that $50,000 level. So we threw away the opportunity to ask this donor for $50,000 because we were busy planning the event. So it's the multi-layer thing. It's not only that the event had hard costs here, the DJ, the venue, the food, the ticket sales, the whatever. Then it's a layer deeper of we're paying the staff time. We have their hourly, their insurance, their benefits or whatever. Then we go a third layer deeper of if we'd have just taken that same staff time and gone and done something else, the thing that is more productive, major gifts, we would have then even come out further ahead. So there's all these layers of hidden costs. Hey, thanks for checking out our video. If you're getting value out of this but would like something more personalized, you can book 30 minutes with one of our experts to see if you qualify for our support services. Link below in the description. Now, why major gifts? Obviously, there's lots of things that we can be doing as a professional fundraiser, and we have to kind of choose our favorite 40 hours every week because there's always more stuff to do than we have time. That's pretty standard for someone who works in nonprofit fundraising. So what are the data for major gifts? AFP, or the Association of Fundraising Professionals, reports that it costs anywhere from 10 to 20 cents on average to raise $1 for major gifts. So again, that gets you under the minimum ethical standard of 20 cents. That's what we say, like you should spend no more than 20 cents to raise $1. And if we're really good at it, we can get down as 10. Now, clients of Pride, a lot of them are in that kind of like 3 to 8 cents on the dollar. If you really optimize your program, you can get it down super low. So our philosophy is, okay, if it costs 3 to 8 cents to raise $1 in this method, and I have 40 hours a week to spend, I'm just gonna dump as many of those 40 hours as possible into just major gifts. This is our best ROI in terms of time for dollars. This is by far the best way to do this. It's not that we're working harder, or it's just like we're gonna do more. We're gonna just buckle down and be stronger. We're gonna be better at our job. It's like, no, we're working the same time. We're just spending it on major gifts. So our income goes up with the same amount of time, but our expenses are the same, and sometimes they're even down because we're not spending money on events. Those costs for the events, those go away. Maybe we spend a little bit taking donors out to lunch or dinner or coffee, but for the most part, income goes up per hour for the organization and expenses at the minimum stay the same and oftentimes drop. So we say take all the time that you're working on events and shovel them into major gifts as best you can. Or at a minimum, don't start new events. If you are, unfortunately, in a space where you can't remove your events, you do have a couple of options. Option one is conversion. Can we convert our fundraising events where we have to get sponsors and sell tickets and have auction items and all this stuff, all this extra work for the staff, and can we just make it a recognition event? Invite only. If you've made a donation in the past year to the charity, you get invited. It's very simple. You can do something like cocktail and hors d'oeuvres, or just cocktails, or just soft drinks. I mean, make it as simple and as intimate as you would like, but you want it to be cheap and easy. Find a free venue, see if someone will donate a venue. Donors don't really care about the lavishness of the event. They would much rather, and I'm speaking in generalities, but it's like 90+% of donors would much rather you spend the money they donate on the cause they donated to. I know that sounds like a shock, but really, we should take the money that our donors give us for the mission and spend as much of it as we possibly can on the mission and less of it on trinkets and a vacation package and this beautiful venue and this crazy dinner that's got dry chicken and no one likes it anyways. So we're really, really focusing on moving as many of our events that are fundraising events. You know, your golf tournament is now your corporate thank you event. Anyone who's a corporation who's given to you in the last year, they get to play in your golf tournament. It's donation only and it's 10,000 and above or whatever. So that's the first thing. You can't kill the events, you go to conversion. Option number two is every other year. This is a much easier pill to swallow, especially if you have very well-intentioned board members who are pushing you to do this. A lot of times you're like, I know the events are bad. I hate them. I'm exhausted. It is my least favorite part of my job. The board insists, or my boss insists, the executive director, the CEO is making me do them. Suggest every other year. Number one is it will have often twice the impact because it's more special. This is only a thing that we do every other year. It's big, you're not gonna wanna miss it. The second thing is it cuts in half the work. So maybe you don't get double the impact, but you get more impact. But more importantly, every other year, you're doing less. Say if you have two events, alternate. This year we do the golf tournament, this year we do the gala, so that you're cutting your work in half. In those hundreds of hours that you're spending planning on that, you can be out raising money and producing revenue for the organization. The third way is just to get rid of them, is to phase them out, is to do them less and less, kind of go every other year, and then eventually they just kind of go into oblivion. Most top programs that are in the small staff range, so again, this maybe doesn't apply as much if you have 25, 30 staff and you can have a full-time event planner, fine. You get that money allocated anyways. Your program is probably pretty well rounded already. These are your small shops, 5 staff or 3 staff, 1 staff person in the fundraising department. You as the fundraising department cannot put on events by yourself. It's just not going to work. It's not productive. You're gonna run yourself dry. You've probably experienced this yourself. It's too hard to run an event by yourself as a single staff person. Even if you have wonderful volunteers, I'd rather spend that volunteer time on them helping me prospect, to bring in gifts, to go talk to people, to actually go and raise money. But if you have less than 5 staff people, or say 5 or fewer staff people, I would start with 0 events until your program is much, much larger, like in the 10+ staff person range is when we start to consider these things. They have a place in fundraising, but people use them as a beginning, as the first piece, as the start or the foundation of their program. They should really be an add-on, the last thing that you do. Final thoughts, or final thought really. If you're in a position where you're like, I believe you and I have experienced this for myself, but there's just no way, I have to put on this event, then I will give you one final optimization as to what to do following the event. The event itself is not the fundraiser. We think about, oh, we gotta make all this money in one night, and however we did 180,000 or whatever, 10,000, 3,000, whatever we made, that's the event. That's the thing that we have to do. We have to keep in mind that if we're forced to do these and we're putting on this event either way and it's too important, or maybe it is profitable for us. We raise $400,000 in a night and that's worth 3 months of work and it's a huge piece of our operations budget. Totally fine, you might be in that boat. What we can do is everything after the event. Everything after is key. This starts at the event. Number 1, you want to capture contact information. So many people put on, and you think this would be obvious, but so many people put on events and they might know the names of all the guests that they have who are donors or board members, but people can just show up and not give their phone number, their email, or their name even, and we say, well, we kind of know who went, but we don't really have their information or a way to get to them. If you can find a way to intentionally capture the contact information, you have some sort of a follow-up mechanism afterwards, even if it's just send them an email to say thank you or to talk about the impact of the event. So after you've captured the contact info, you want to start with your easy yeses and one-on-one personalized follow-up. So you want to reach out to as many people in the following 3 or 4 weeks after the event to say, hey, hope you enjoyed the event. So thankful that you supported our blank and blank program. Can I take you out to lunch or coffee or something? Can I come by your office and tell you a little bit more about what we're doing in these areas? And a lot of people will turn you down. No, we're good. We just went to the event. That's fine. They're kind of unqualifying themselves as a potential supporter. Totally fine. We want to work the list anyways. We want to go through that whole list. But we start with our easiest yeses first, the people that we know already, and we work our way outwards to the people we know the least well, and we use the event as sort of a prospecting event. So yes, it's an event, we're gonna try to raise money in one night, but what we're really gaining is the ability to connect to new people who might be excited about our cause and everything that we do following the event. And it's tough because you just finished the event. You've spent months planning it, you've done the event, you're really exhausted, but that's when the work begins. You're really only at that point 10% of the way done because the rest of the 90% is to then go follow up. It would be as if you spend all this money on a billboard about, say you're McDonald's, you spend all this money on a billboard advertising Big Macs, and then everybody comes to McDonald's and you're like, we are really tired. We just built a billboard and we painted it and we did it by hand and we had to carry it all up there and it was exhausting. So we're just not gonna make burgers because we're just too tired. So the store is closed. So all these people are like, hey, I saw the billboard, thought I might get a Big Mac. They go to McDonald's. McDonald's is like, no, we're closed. This is the same thing that we're doing here. We're getting all these people together. We're getting them really excited about our cause. We're saying, yeah, write us a check. Tell us, if you want to support us, let us know. People, oh yeah, I'll get around to it. And then they go back to their lives. Well-intentioned, of course, but you have to do that next step for them. People are always nice, but you have to go first is what we always say. So we try to go first and say, hey, we know that you supported us this one time, but there's a lot more impact to be had, and here's some of the things you may not know about us, and can I get some feedback about the event? You can ask whatever questions that you want, but you want it to be a two-way street where you're actually finding these prospects and then moving on afterwards. So again, if you have to do events, use it as a way to build your prospect list to then move into major gifts. Makes it a little more worth it. It's still tough, but a nice way to convert if you're forced into doing them. So hopefully that helps you. Hopefully I've convinced you to maybe pause some of your events or wean them out, but at a minimum, don't start any new ones. Hey, thanks for checking out our video. If you're ready to level up your fundraising program, Pride Philanthropy might be able to help. Our team helps raise over $100 million per year for dozens of clients all over the country. We train staff and volunteers, conduct feasibility studies, and manage multi-year campaigns. If you're looking for outside help to kickstart your program or rejuvenate your efforts, you can book a free 30-minute call with one of our experts to see if you qualify as a client of Pride. Visit pridephilanthropy.com or click the link below, and we'll see you over there.